Hey friends, I just had another great day of rehearsal, having just a blast here in New York. Singers sound great. I hear the band tomorrow, and we're on our way. It's happening. And I have to say, I'm just kind of thrilled to be here. It's really grateful for the experience and going well so far. And there's a kind of playfulness to it. You know, it's something that I noticed when we were doing the production in Houston as well. There's just a life spirit underneath this project. And you know, the cast were remarking on it today. They were talking about how, because several of them have gone on to do other projects pretty much immediately after we did our show, but all of them were so grateful to come back into this vibe and this group. And I think it just, you know, it really kind of speaks to the energy underneath this show, which is a very wonderful thing to receive and to be part of. And I'm having fun with that. And something that has come up, you know, I've been reflecting on what I spoke a little bit about yesterday, this idea that bliss, the infinite joy of existence, is ultimately the substrate of all experience. And as creatives, it's possible to allow that inherent joy of existence to infuse what we're doing, to be the origin of the impulse to make music or to make art or whatever our thing is. If we can tap into that dimension, then it's like rocket fuel. It's like an inexhaustible source of energy and ideas and intelligence. And you know, as I was saying yesterday, it's something that I think I'm sort of adopting it as a practice to approach my work that way, and to just remain in that place as consciously as I can, and to remind myself of that frequently, because it's not necessarily habitual that in our work mode that we live there, right? That's something that we may have to continually remind ourselves of, even as people who meditate, even as people who are really frequently and continuously touching base with this dimension. It's like I can never be reminded too many times. I mean, there's also a flow that happens. There's a certain kind of getting into the mode, and then you're just living there that happens, which is wonderful. And it's, of course, that's where we ultimately, I mean, if it could all be like that, that'd be amazing. But I'm acknowledging that that there's some conscious steps to be taken in order to really make my practice live there and really come from that place all the time. And when we hit creative friction, which we're gonna hit because that's the nature of creativity, it's the nature of collaboration, when we hit that friction, to still come from that place, to remember to always come from that place. So that's something that has just been percolating, and I've been really feeling it over the last couple days, because it's felt like we're really, in a lot of ways, we're there. In a lot of ways, we're so many of us are coming from this place of just ease and giving and availability, and just there's a joy. It's an inherent joy in the work. And something that I've been thinking about, and I think I've talked about this on a previous post as well. There's a really interesting thing about the way our culture works, and the way our culture is constructed around the idea. You know, in the Constitution we have this principle of the right to the pursuit of happiness, or the Declaration of Independence, I forget which one. And there's something kind of interesting to observe when we think about the idea that our culture is based on the pursuit of happiness, and that by definition, the pursuit of happiness, I mean, it's literally what Sadhguru says should not be our orientation. We should not live our lives in the pursuit of joy. We should live our lives as an expression of joy. Because the notion that we need to pursue joy, I mean, the notion that we have the right to pursue joy, inherent in that is the notion that we don't have infinite access to it all the time. So, because you can only pursue something outside of yourself. So we have the right to pursue happiness. Well, all the mystics will tell you that pursuit never ends. You never actually catch happiness. You never actually get there. And when I kind of look at the way that our culture, you know, some of the ways in which that some unhealthy entitlement manifests in our culture, unhealthy exploitation, unhealthy just relationship to the planet. I mean, I'm not trying to sort of overly vilify this idea, but I think there's something to the notion that by telling ourselves we have the right to pursue happiness, and thereby telling ourselves subconsciously we don't have what we need to go pursue it. Of course we have a culture of entitlement. Of course we have a culture because it's based on scarcity. It's the abundance, the inherent abundance of existence has already been banished. It's already been, and the thing is, it hasn't been directly or explicitly banished. It's been implicitly banished. We've implicitly been sold the idea that because we have a right to pursue happiness, we just register the implications of that as meaning, well, if I have a right to pursue it, I must not have it. You know, it points our focus in a particular direction outside of ourselves. And I've just been kind of meditating on that and reflecting on that a bit. Again, kind of in this context of the way that I imagine creative work might look if I were to come from a place of total abundance, total joy, total already fullness, and my expression became an overflow of fullness. It's a different philosophy. We have to think about the whole world in a different way. And because abundance is not entitlement. Abundance is infinite. Abundance is everything, is having everything we could possibly need. And all of us have access to abundance. But if you teach us that that's not real, or just to never acknowledge that, we're not going to feel like that. We're not going to feel like we have access to it, and we're going to construct our lives around a very different set of goals. And I think as someone who in our culture enjoys a fair amount of privilege, I think I'm also looking for how all this works. Like how the universe works. Because you listen to a Sadhguru and you're hearing what I'm hearing, like the nature of the structure of the cosmos. I'm hearing principles and just like the laws of physics of interior dimensions of my being and of everyone's being that are universal. And comparing that to how our culture works and what it kind of means to work within our culture. It's a very interesting comparison. It's a very interesting I can tell you right now, I don't have a ton of conclusions here, but it's something that's coming online for me as something to investigate, and certainly something, again, as someone with a fair amount of privilege, to be as conscious of as I can. Where's the distinction? Where's the distinction between privilege in our culture and abundance in the cosmos? Right? Those are clearly not the same thing, and to conflate them would be to kind of be blind to privilege. But at the same time, what the mystics are saying is we all have infinite abundance. It's here. We just need to be looking that direction. And again, coming back to my own creative practice, my own life, it's something that I'm really, I would say I'm on the lookout for now. I'm really I'm doing my best to look at my own moment-to-moment experience and where I intersect with the world, where and how I intersect with the world, and where and how these dimensions of experience that we find through meditation or whatever, various practices, turn into action in the world. How that all works. Because I'm convinced that there's something to this. I'm convinced that this notion, again, the Sadhguru's distinction between art that comes from pain and turmoil and art that comes from inherent objectless joy. That's the thing about the bliss of existence, is it's objectless. It's not happy because of something. It's not a response to anything. It's the substrate of existence. It's prior to existence. So it's in everything. That is a different source of joy and a different source of fuel and a different source of inspiration than any kind of exterior worldly, happiness about something that goes well or did, whatever. So anyway, you can probably tell it's percolating in my mind more than I've hit on a conclusion here, but it's an interesting question for me to unpack, and I really am reflecting on this notion of the pursuit of happiness and trying to look critically at, well, what's my actual relationship to happiness, to my own genuine happiness? What's the source of that? I feel like if I can discover that, I'll create differently and I'll live potentially very differently. So that's what I got today. Appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Much love. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.